Hey, do you like my outfit? It's pretty random, right? That's because today we're going to be talking about the random block in the EV3 programming software. So today we're going to be going over the random block in the EV3 software and how to use it within the context of the EV3. But we're also going to be talking about random number theory in general with computers, how there are no truly random numbers generated by a computer. And we're also going to be looking at an example of where I personally have used the random block when I programmed the most recent version of the Timmyton. So anyway, by now my outfit is probably making you cringe so hard you may have dislocated a shoulder. So I'll spare you from having to look at my crazy getup, and we'll go to the programming software right now. Alright, my EV3 software is open, and it's time to show you this random block. You can find it under the red data operations tab, and it's the one all the way at the end. It has the picture of the die on it. So take it out so we could use it in the program. There are two different modes it could possibly be in. Numeric, in which the random block will give you a pseudo-random number value, or logic, in which it gives you a pseudo-random true or false state. So I'll start by going over numeric, because that one might be easier. You set the lower bound, which by default is 1, and your upper bound, which by default is 10. And then this last part is just an output, where it outputs whatever pseudo-random number it's generated so you could use in your program. So pretty simple. And of course you could adjust these bounds to be wider, narrower, transpose them which way you want. It'll give you a pseudo-random number in between these values. And I say pseudo-random instead of actually random, because a computer isn't capable of doing a truly random number. It's pseudo-random because it looks random to us, where in reality it's not exactly random. And that's why they don't use a random number generator to make passwords for a computer account stuff, because they're not truly random. Anyway, moving on to the logic side, this gives us a random true or false state, and you can define the probability of a true event happening. And of course the probability of false would be 100% minus whatever probability you've typed in here. And by default the probability of true is 50%, so that means it's 50-50 whether it's going to give you a true or false, and that can be adjusted. So let's say you have a probability of true of 75, that means there's a 25% probability of false. And if you're wondering how it can be that you can define the probability that any individual state happens, so 75% true, and how is that even still random, look up John von Neumann and his random number experiments if you have some extra free time, because they're really fascinating, and I highly recommend if you're interested in looking more into this. Anyway, back to the block. The last part, of course, is value, which is where it takes its random true or false state that it's generated so you could use in the rest of the program. That's the random number block. Very straightforward, as you can see, not a lot going on. But how would you use this in a program? I'll show you an example. One time when I actually used the random block in a program was in my program for the Timmyton, and this is the latest version, which is version 5.7. Now this has a monster of a program, there's a lot going on, so it's kind of buried within the program. But if you go over to autonomous mode, which is this center button here, the Timmyton makes use of this random block. As you can see, it's right here. I'll zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. And what the random block is being used here for is to set the motor power for each of the drive motors. You see two separate random blocks. They each get a number, a pseudo-random number between 1 and 100, and they calculate independently, and they set that as the power for each of the individual drive motors for 1 second. And what this does is it gives the Timmyton kind of that wandering type feel when it's driving around. So it's not just driving in a straight line or at a predefined curve. Instead, it's going to randomly move around different straight lines, maybe kind of curved one and then a big curve next, because it's all the power values are pseudo-random and it changes every second. So that's an example of how you can use the random block in your program if you want to give your robot a kind of more organic looking wandering type feel when it drives around. Thanks for checking out my video this week. If you found it helpful, be sure to subscribe to my channel for more tutorials like this every week. And if you have an idea for a tutorial, leave it in the comments section below. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.